Don't look now, but the perilous decisions of Kevin Feige with this Phase 5 dive is turning the MCU into the MCU? Explaining entertainment, keeping you ahead of the culture curve. It's what we do each and every day here. And things are moving fast when it comes to Marvel and the Phase 5 dive. So much so that head honcho over at Marvel, Kevin Feige, is likely feeling the heat. And that's very difficult to even imagine that we could have conceived just a few years ago. Marvel Studios and Kevin Feige were untouchable. They were the envy of all of the entertainment companies out there. Everybody wanted to be like Marvel. Everybody wanted to have a Kevin Feige. And yet Disney was the only one with that golden goose. But my, oh my, how things have changed. We all know people in our lives who have had it all and then made big mistakes that unraveled their lives and their livelihoods. However, it's also the case that that can occur to corporations, to studios, to companies. And for Marvel, that's certainly what we are seeing. This is a franchise or a connection of many franchises, which has determined that it's bigger than the stories from which it originates. It's bigger than the fandom and what the fans want to see. It's even bigger than culture and bigger than philosophies that undergird entertainment. For whatever reason, Kevin Feige and the crew over at Marvel have determined that they can break away from all of the great stories at Marvel, and they can tell things now which are seemingly unhinged. And so what I want to do is go back to an article from Forbes back from January, not long ago, and take a look at the excitement that existed for Phase 5, and then compare that to what we have today. I think you're going to see that there is a very stark contrast, one that is so stark that it likely has Disney rethinking everything. And I mean that, rethinking everything when it comes to the MCU. Before we dive into this, if you like content like this kind of stuff, make sure to click the like button, share, subscribe, and the notification bell. You can stick it to algorithms when you click it. And we, of course, covet your comments. Marvel Phase 5 release schedule, every MCU movie and TV show releasing in 2023 and beyond. This was by Eric Kane on January 9th. Let's dive in and find out how things have changed. It's a brand new year, and the next phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is about to kick off. Phase 4 drew to a close with Black Panther: Wakanda Forever and a couple TV specials, including the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, which was a pleasant surprise, and indeed it was. Now, note that in Phase 4, we had a bunch of stinkers. We had some serious flops for Marvel, which basically were unheard of up until Phase 4 in the modern Marvel era. Black Panther: Wakanda Forever being one of those movies that likely lost money, although that's a little unfair because there were some financial trickeries going on behind the scenes that put that movie in a bad position. However, there's no hiding the fact that Black Panther: Wakanda Forever lost something like half its audience. And so those who went to see the original Black Panther, well, they didn't show up in mass for Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. That was largely hidden, as was the case with many of these other Marvel movies, by the fact that inflation has propped up the amount of money coming in on those revenues, and it makes it look like these movies are doing much better than they are, when in fact, the number of people going to see them is lower. And when those numbers start dropping significantly, and they have for audiences, well, that means that this stuff just isn't quite the cultural zeitgeist that it was before. Phase 5 begins next month and includes a bunch of new movies and Disney Plus streaming shows, beginning with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which, by the way, we now know is headed for flop territory. And when we say that, that has a very specific meaning. That means that Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is headed to be a loss, a financial loss for Disney if the current trajectory holds. And it certainly looks like that is the case. All right, let's go a little bit farther. The MCU's Phase 4 was met with mixed reviews from fans and critics. Again, this leading into where we are now. It seemed less focused than previous phases and included many lesser-known heroes in the post-Avengers era, an inevitability given the absence of Captain America and Iron Man. But that's not true at all. In fact, Marvel has the X-Men, and they paid a very, very hefty price to get those X-Men. A property that Victoria Alonso, one of the major leaders at Marvel, has said that she would like to change because that's gendered language. I find that to be ridiculous and indicative of the problems that Marvel has. However, they've got that. They've got the Fantastic Four. They have so many very popular characters that they have refused to use. At the same time, it had some of the most creative entries in the entire MCU. WandaVision remains one of my favorite Marvel projects of all time, and Spider-Man No Way Home was terrific. Note that Spider-Man No Way Home was, well, a product of Sony. Now, Disney gets to share in that success to some degree because Disney owns Marvel, but Sony owns the theatrical rights to Spider-Man, and that was a product of Sony, not Kevin Feige's MCU. All right, so Ant-Man and the Wasp. They were really excited about this one. The last time we had an Ant-Man movie was back in 2018. That's 5 years ago. Good job on math. We did see Paul Rudd's Ant-Man in a few other MCU films since then, including Avengers Endgame, but this will not be our first return to the story of Ant-Man and the Wasp. I'm not looking forward to typing out the word Quantumania over and over again, but I am looking forward to a return to one of the MCU's most endearing sort of heroes. We now know again that this first entry into Phase 5 and the one that was supposed to kick off Kang the Conqueror as being this very ominous villain that we're all supposed to respect and enjoy and look forward to a great battle coming up between him and the Avengers. It's kind of a bust. And it doesn't matter how much the media tries to prop up the villain and the celebrity behind that villain. It's not working. It is not working. And if people don't care enough to go see the movie, then they don't know who the villain is and they don't have interest in that. All right, up next in this Phase 5 is What If Season 2. Well, that's a gimmick that's probably worn out now. And if you look at the image there, perhaps Spider-Man as Doctor Strange is exciting, but other than that, there's just not a lot there that's going to continue to drive people into this. The animated What If show takes an alternate reality approach to the characters and stories in the MCU. I'm not going to read the rest because I'm just going to tell you that's part of the dilution that's becoming a real issue. When you take these characters and you dilute them and you modify them and you swap them and you do all these sorts of things, inevitably the problem is that people stop to care about the core characters. And this multiverse issue is really, it's an Achilles heel for Marvel. Because if in this multiverse there exist hundreds of thousands and more, right, because it's supposed to be infinite, hundreds of thousands and more of the same character, then who cares what happens to one of those characters? You can simply replace them. It's a real problem, and it defeats the scope and the intimacy of the MCU. Then we've got Secret Invasion in spring of 2023. Samuel L. Jackson returns to the MCU as Nick Fury alongside a pretty star-studded cast that includes Martin Freeman, Ben Mendelsohn, Kobe Smulders, Don Cheadle, and Emilia Clarke. A few of those are big. Not really, though. The Secret Invasion storyline is all about a Skrull invasion, where it appears the shape-shifting aliens have replaced a number of superheroes. This is a pretty major crossover event, perhaps the biggest since the Avengers film. I mean, I guess that could be good on Disney+, but so far we haven't seen much in the way of excellent Marvel programming on Disney+. Loki had some very big high points, season 1. It also had some awful low points. That was one of the, that's a series that in my viewpoint just shows the disparity in the writing at Marvel. When they put the right people behind an episode, it can be great. And then if you put an activist behind there who's wanting to create propaganda instead of good story, it can be awful. And we saw that continue with stuff like She-Hulk. She-Hulk is just terrible. So who can say? Do we get something akin to some of the better parts of WandaVision in Secret Invasion? Or do we get She-Hulk again? Because frankly, I've had enough of She-Hulk. All right, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Caveat on this one, this is produced by James Gunn. James Gunn is heading to DC. So this is a one and done from Gunn. No good for Marvel. I don't know what is worse. If it does extremely well, then it portends that he's probably going to do extremely well over at DC, which will now be a formidable rival given Marvel's low point. If it does poorly, then what do you say about that? It doesn't do Marvel any good to have a bad movie, especially when it's the only one that they've got for the roster in 2023 that has a chance. More on that in a moment. I have a special fondness for Guardians of the Galaxy, and I'm extremely excited for the third and final entry in James Gunn's trilogy. Granted, the first film was much better than the second. I mean, who I guess that's subjective. I don't know that it was much better, but I still enjoyed both, and I have high hopes for Volume 3. I just love the characters. It's also kind of funny to watch a Marvel movie directed by the new chief of DC Films. Okay, kudos to you on that. It's a good point. Loki Season 2 comes in the summer. Okay, this reminds me. I need to finish Loki. Oh my gosh. Well, nothing says that this, the author of this wasn't all that keen on Marvel if they didn't even finish Loki, which was the kickoff of the whole Kang thing. I know. I'm wicked late on this one, but that's because around the time Loki aired, I was experiencing major MCU burnout. Yeah, well, get ready for more of that. As much as I loved WandaVision, I was pretty disappointed by The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which was just not a very good show. So when Loki dropped, I just wasn't feeling it. Now I need to go back to it before I even read about Season 2. All right, well, and then we've got Echo. And guess what? Even though they talk about Echo and they hype it up, Echo's not coming out this year anymore. Between the publication of this article and now, we've had some shifts at Marvel because they've recognized that they've got problems and they're having to delay some of these. Now they're saying that it's because they're lowering the cadence of the content that's being released on Disney Plus. But this is already in the can, and these other shows are already in the can. So why are they delaying them? Well, likely because they recognize that whatever they've been doing isn't working and they need to change it ASAP. Now, here's the other issue, though. This was before Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania came out and now is bombing at the box office, right? The worst second weekend drop in the history of superhero films that debuted more than $100 million. Let me make that more simple. In the history of major superhero movies in the modern era, it's got the worst drop ever. All right? Well, now what does Marvel do? Because now it's red alert, flashing red signs. And you know what's going to put a puncture or put an exclamation mark on that? Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Because here's one that again is made by Sony. And this is one that has a great shot at being successful. But it's not part of Phase 5. It's not part of Disney. It's not part of Kevin Feige's MCU. It turns out that Marvel is not experiencing superhero fatigue if it's made by Sony. So, and the comments here are, okay, I know this isn't an MCU movie, and I just don't care. I had to put it in this list because I love the first one so much. Yeah, that's the problem. Sony is making stuff that people love, and Disney isn't. Look at this. Marvel's, again, they thought this was going to come out on July 28th, hit the summer. It's no longer going to do that. Instead, it's going to go head-to-head, essentially, with the Hunger Games prequel. Guess what? It's going to be battling for the exact same demographic. That's not good. And that doesn't indicate that Disney moved this to be in a stronger position, despite what the rest of the media might tell you. What it really says is that, we need reshoots. The VFX is not up to par. We're really worried about this, and we're already seeing our other stuff plunge. So the Marvels now moved to November, bound to be a controversial film because internet fandom and entertainment media remain in an endless, fruitless pop culture war. No, it's because it might not be good. The Marvels brings together Captain Marvel, along with the adult Monica Rambeau, who gained superpowers during WandaVision, and Captain Marvel's biggest fan, Kamala Khan, as Miss Marvel. WandaVision writer Megan McDonnell penned the script, which gives me hope for this one. Well, there were parts of WandaVision that were really good. There were parts that were not. I don't know what to think about it. I can tell you this, though. This is not highly anticipated. So take that what you will. And it doesn't seem to me, by the way, I don't think that Marvel can continue to pull the kind of numbers they have without being highly anticipated. We're seeing that, right? If the first film in Phase 5 can't be carried by the enthusiasm and the excitement of normies, well, this film's certainly not going to do that. Then we've got Ironheart, by the way, again delayed to another year. What does that mean? That means that Marvel knows they have a problem. Kraven the Hunter. Okay, we're not going to deal with that one. It's not part of the MCU. It's part of Sony, and we just don't want to fool that. X-Men 97. I am concerned about this. It's supposed to come out in winter of this year. There are things. Okay, let me reset. X-Men 97 is a phenomenal cartoon. It is a classic, and it took Disney Plus by surprise. In fact, I reported on this originally before anybody else, which is to say that when this came out, it shocked the people overseeing Disney Plus because this cartoon from the 90s suddenly was doing great in the ratings for Disney Plus. That's tapered off since, but that was the case. And so they immediately tried to get this greenlit to start bringing back the X-Men. The problem is that we've seen some stuff out of the creatives behind it, as well as some of the voice talent, that it just seems like there's a chance that this is going to push into territory that the original never did, and push into modern sociocultural issues that could bog down everything and make it feel more like agenda-driven entertainment rather than entertainment that gives you information as a consequence of good writing and good storytelling. So, Agatha, Coven of Chaos, again, moved, not coming out this year. Then, continue with Phase 5. We've got Daredevil Born Again. It's coming out in spring 2024. I mean, maybe it'll be okay as a Disney Plus show. I also don't know that it'll hit that mark, because now we've got these other Disney Plus shows that have been moved back. So we don't know what's going to happen with Daredevil Born Again. Captain America New World Order, May 3rd, 2024. I'm deeply concerned about this film. I really didn't like The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I guess part of that was the writing, and part of that is just sense that Sam Wilson is just not a great character. Oh my gosh. If they're saying that in Forbes. Or maybe I'm just not a huge fan of Mackie, who is fine but not exactly lead material. Oh my gosh, if they're saying this at Forbes. All right. Here's the issue. When people want Captain America, it has nothing to do with race, but they want Sam Rogers. Okay? That's the deal. When they want to go watch a Black Panther Wakanda movie, they want Chadwick Boseman, and it really sucks that he's not there. But Marvel could recast and find somebody surely who could approximate, even though we know Chadwick Boseman is one of a kind. And that's kind of the same thing with Captain America. They want the Chris Evans, Sam Rogers, and that's one of a kind. I don't know, especially with Marvel in the decline, that Captain America New World Order can pull something off. It's going to need to be a really good film. Marvel, under Kevin Feige and Disney, has not been putting out really good films lately. They've been really messy. Think back through the recent Marvel movies, and Ant-Man is just awful. So if Captain America New World Order is incredible, okay, it's got a shot. If it's anything less than that, I think we're on a continuing decline. Thunderbolts, still on schedule for July 26th. Nobody knows what that is. I'm being honest. If you're not a diehard Marvel fan, nobody knows what that is. There is no excitement for it. So they'll have to generate a ton of excitement. They've got to do that at a time when it seems like Phase 5 is faltering badly. Blade. This one is now coming out late in 2024. And we'll just have to see. It's really early, but again, this is not a clear win. What is a clear win is that, and this wraps up what they knew at the time, but what is clear win? Deadpool 3 coming out at the very end of 2024. And what all this means is that if you run through this, here are the ones that we think are for sure going to be winners. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, almost definitely a flop. Okay. What If? It's a Disney Plus show. Secret Invasion, it's a Disney Plus show. And by the way, the way that you judge these, are they bringing in new subscribers? Neither one of these, do I believe, brings in new subscribers. So call that what you will. But if it doesn't achieve the goal, then who cares? Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, I think that's going to be a success. I think that's going to be a huge success. But I'm still not sure that's good for Marvel, even though that's really weird to say. Loki Season 2, there's a shot here. If that's really good, and they need it to be really good, that could be a lifeline to Marvel. Echo, gone. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the better it does, the worse Disney looks. The Marvels, flop. Ironheart, gone. Kraven the Hunter, who cares? X-Men 97, that could go in either direction very strongly. If it's great, that would be good for Disney Plus, and it could pick up subscribers. If it goes the direction that we're all worried, wow, look out. Because that could actually poison the goodwill well when it comes to fans wanting to go back, watch that, and then go see an X-Men movie when it gets ready to launch in Phase 6, let's say. Really dangerous stuff there for Marvel. Agatha, gone. Daredevil, who cares? Captain America, iffy. Thunderbolts, my gosh, I can't imagine it making money. I just can't imagine. Blade, who knows? And then Deadpool going to make money. So there's a path here where Marvel Phase 5 makes money with Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and then has to wait all the way until the very end of 2024 to see a film released that actually makes money, that actually makes a profit. That is a huge problem. It's a big enough problem that Kevin Feige is now in the hot seat. It's a big enough problem that Disney may actually have to drop all of their agenda stuff that they've been so absolutely determined to do. There's just one problem. According to our sources, deeply embedded all around Disney, Disney knows the issues they have. And for right now, they're deciding that agenda is more important, if you can believe that. So we'll see how long they can hold that out. We'll see how long the MCU can go before it realizes that Phase 1, 2, and 3 was the way to be. If you enjoy this kind of content, like, share, subscribe, notification bell, hit it, comment on your way out. And ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.